Ladies and gentlemen, there are still plenty of seats, so please feel free to find one. It's my very great pleasure to welcome you all here to the Beth Weizmann Jewish Community Centre today. Prime Minister of Australia, the Honourable Scott Morrison MP, Dr Danny Lamb AM, Mr David Southwick MP, Senator James Paterson, the Liberal Senator for Victoria, Mrs Kate Ashmore, who is the Liberal candidate for Macnamara, Dr Katie Allen, the Liberal candidate for Paran, Mr Asher Judah, who is the Liberal candidate for Bentley, Councillor Andrew Bond, Councillor for the City of Port Phillip, Councillor Jamie Hymans, the Deputy Mayor of the City of Glen Eira, in which we have our home, and Councillor Joel Silver, Councillor for the City of Glen Eira. Ladies and gentlemen and honoured guests, may I first begin by expressing the apologies of Shireen Hamber, the President of Zionism Victoria, who is presently overseas and unable to join us. Prime Minister, this building is actually owned ultimately by Zionism Victoria, and Shireen is the president of that organisation and succeeded me in that role and has been a magnificent leader of the organisation and a true partner to me in making this day possible and this event occur. So I'm sorry she's not here, and express her apologies and good wishes to all assembled. This truly is an amazing day, and I look forward very much to the Prime Minister's remarks, which will confirm ultimately that the security project that we have been working towards now for a number of years is finally going to be brought to fruition. It's been a tremendous effort by a large number of people, both present employees of Beth Weizmann Jewish Community Centre, past employees, and in fact also all of the people who make this centre their home, the home of their working lives, and in many cases significant aspects of their social lives when they come here each day to work or participate in the many activities that we have here. This truly is the hub of the community, and having a safe environment in which the community can gather and be as free as possible from the fear of terrorist incidents that would impact in a horrible way on our community specifically and on Australian society generally is terribly important. It's been a very instructive exercise over the last 20 years or so to watch how security has heightened, and many of the things that we used to take for granted in terms of entering buildings and coming and going as we saw fit has now been subject to much greater scrutiny and caution because of the fear that we have that our daily lives, the life that we enjoy in Australia, might be interfered with. And Prime Minister, it's of great comfort to me personally and to all of those people who work in this building to know that coming here each day will in fact be safer as a result of the work that we're going to be doing. I don't want to take too much of your time, and it's my great pleasure now to ask Dr Danny Lamb to address us. He's going to address us with a few remarks, and then I'll come back to the microphone.
Thanks, Sam. I want to take this opportunity to acknowledge this fantastic support that has finally come to us. We've been working on it since 2003. I'm in fact Sam's predecessor in this role. I was here when we got the news that this was a terror target, and we've been concerned about it ever since. And I have to say, after 5 Prime Ministers, we have a Prime Minister who's delivered home. And I said it before to the Prime Minister, you'll excuse me, he's brought home the bacon. And, and we are so, so grateful. Let me take this opportunity to thank Sam for his incredible persistence in pursuing this goal. Shkoyach, Sam, which means well done, mate. And I'd like to thank some of the people that were particularly instrumental in bringing this about and pursued this with vigour. I particularly refer to Tim Wilson, who isn't here today, member for Goldstein, and Kate Ashmore, the next member for has worked so hard since she got pre-selected. We want to acknowledge today the fantastic government support, not only for the community, but also for the State of Israel. And we don't take it for granted. It's a very, very serious thing. Israel can almost not count on a better friend in the world than Australia, and may it long continue, and I know under your leadership it will be so. We both tackle, here in Australia, and in Israel, tackle the threat of terror. It's a terrible thing, and you've acknowledged that in your support here for what we're going to be doing here. But in Israel, there are, you can't say daily, but there are innocent lives being lost through terror in an attempt to undermine any potential peace process. One that Prime Minister Bibi is particularly keen to achieve, but constantly being knocked back. And the most recent one was the attack in this Barakan area, which is where Palestinians and Israelis were working together in a very harmonious environment, and the attack was specifically there to undermine the potential for people working together. Now, Bibi doesn't cry wolf. It's not a penchant of the State of Israel to do so. And so, you know, we deal with the terrorism, move on. But when Bibi says there's a concern about Iran, that is genuine, and that is an existential threat to the State of Israel. So the message that I bring to you, and I bring it to you from Government of Israel in respect of that is a serious concern, and may you continue to maintain the fantastic standards that you've already set. We wish you every bit of luck, and we thank you again on behalf of the whole community for your support for this terribly important event now. Thank you very much.
Prime Minister, as Danny said, Tim Wilson has really been a rock of support, as has your Treasurer Josh Frydenberg in enabling effective lobbying, because that's really what it comes down to. It was making a case to government over many years for the necessity for this work, and without the assistance of the willing ears of members of Parliament who represent this area and their willingness to go to bat for this community, I'm sure that it would not have been, we wouldn't have been in the position that we're in today, and I thank him very much in absentia for all of his assistance. Ladies and gentlemen, the installation of what we propose to do here, and I think you all have come to refer to it as the wall, but some here might prefer to refer to it as the security fence. The installation of the wall will increase security for the Beth Weizmann Jewish Community Centre and keeping the employees of more than 25 community organisations and those who visit the building throughout the year safer. It's unfortunately true that complete safety can never be guaranteed, but we can do what we can to make the environment safer. Can I take this opportunity in advance to thank each and every one of the people who work here for their tolerance, patience and understanding, all of which will no doubt be sorely tried as we continue to have this building operate and work during the construction works. It will be disruptive. We know it will be disruptive. We will do our best to minimise those disruptions, but in the end, it is for the benefit of all who work here and all who come here on a daily basis, and we thank you in advance for your cooperation. The Beth Weizmann Jewish Community Centre started out its life as fundamentally an office building, and it's come to be so much more than that, particularly since we were fortunate enough to acquire the premises next door, into which the Lamb Jewish Library has been installed and a number of community organisations, including Access, which you will be visiting later today, the Cook Community Kitchen, the Australian Jewish Historical Society, Jewish Bereaved Parents, and a range of other organisations make their home here, and it is our hope in coming years to establish a community garden and other things of that nature to help build community in this facility. And as we build community and as we have people here, sometimes up to thousands for community events, it's terribly important that those who come here know that they are as safe as they can be. So it will not only keep them safer, it will help support and build our community. We are hoping to stimulate interest and anticipation within the community and for them to see this place as a centre to which they can all have resort. This grant has made the community aware of the government's genuine interest and care for the needs of the Melbourne Jewish community, and the signal that it sends is absolutely not lost on any of us. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure now to call on Senator James Paterson, who will introduce the Prime Minister. Thank you.
Sam, thank you very much. One of the things I admire most about the Jewish community is if there's a problem somewhere in the world, there's a Jewish community organisation trying to solve it. And that's equally true of the Beth Weizmann Centre. If there's a problem somewhere in the world, there's a Jewish community organisation here at Beth Weizmann trying to solve it. That's a long way of saying there are too many special people from the Jewish community here today for me to individually recognise you all, but please accept my collective welcome and acknowledgement of the wonderful work that you do here. It's my honour to introduce the Prime Minister this morning, but before I do, like Sam and Danny, I want to acknowledge two people that were very important in getting this done. One person is someone who is here this morning, that's Kate Ashmore, our outstanding, recently endorsed Liberal candidate for Macnamara. Kate is a local mum, a small businesswoman, and a proud member of the Jewish community. And if she has the honour of being chosen to be the representative of this community, she will be a fierce and powerful advocate for you. And Kate, I want to thank you for the important role that you played in, at the crucial moment, pushing this one over the line. So thank you for that. And appropriately, as Sam and Danny said, Tim Wilson would have really liked to be here today. Judy calls him away to Canberra. He's grilling the big banks, but he is absolutely instrumental in getting this done, and he's been a persistent and dogged advocate of getting this done. It's a real honour to be here today, and it's a real honour to introduce the Prime Minister. I think the Prime Minister recognised what we all recognise, which is that every Australian has an equal right to be safe and to feel safe. And even in a wonderful country like Australia, because of the sad reality of the global scourge of anti-Semitism, the Jewish community has had to bear a higher burden to enjoy that safety and security that I suspect many Australians take for granted. Whether it's your shuls or your schools or your community centres, you've had to do private fundraising for years to meet that extra security cost. So it's only fitting that the federal government is able to make a very meaningful contribution to that today. Prime Minister, thank you for your leadership in getting this done. Thank you for being here today. In Scott Morrison, the Jewish community has a steadfast friend. He grew up in the eastern suburbs of Sydney, which, like our bagel belt here in Melbourne, is home to a very vibrant Jewish community. In 2003, he visited Israel as a guest of the Australia-Israel Jewish Affairs Council. I am reliably informed also on that trip was our current Leader of the Opposition. I'm told that they broke bread together, they swam in the Dead Sea together, and if reports from the Press Gallery's midwinter ball are to be believed, they even enjoyed a memorable night out together in Tel Aviv. That shows the power of the Holy Land. Miracles can happen. As you all know, the Prime Minister is a man of deep and sincere Christian faith, and I think that gives him a particular appreciation for the Jewish faith tradition. His deputy, of course, Josh Frydenberg, is the first ever Jewish Treasurer of Australia and the first Jew to be the deputy leader of a major political party. And it is wonderful to have him here today. Prime Minister, thank you very much for being here today. The Prime Minister this month will make a lot of announcements. This week will make a lot of announcements. Today he'll make a lot of announcements. And in monetary terms, this is not going to be the biggest one. But it is a measure of his commitment to this community and the seriousness with which he takes this issue that he's made himself personally available to be here today to do so. Prime Minister, I invite you to say a few words.
Well, thank you very much, James, and thank you for that very kind welcome. Shalom, shalom. A Pentecostal and a Jew walked into the party room. It sounds like a bit of a bad joke, but we emerged as the new generation of the leadership of the Liberal Party. And we are both very pleased, Josh and I are both very pleased that we're making the announcement that we're making today to commit the $1 million to support your plan, Sam, for making this wonderful centre, which I visited on earlier occasions, to make it safe, to make it the place that you want it to be for your community. That was the vision for your community for it to be. And so I'm really pleased to be here to do this today. It's great to have James here and my other parliamentary colleagues, because James, Kate, Tim, everyone here has been a tremendous supporter of this great project and strong advocates for the Beth Weizmann Community Centre. And I particularly want to acknowledge the work of Tim. As James said, Tim is up chairing the House Economics Committee today, and he would have loved to have been here, but he would not wanted us to delay a second in order to go through with this. And I do want to acknowledge the work that Malcolm Turnbull also did on this project. As Kate would also know, this has been a continuity of effort. And Danny, you'd know that as well. I mean, I was very pleased to be in the position to, take the ultimate decision here. But a lot of work had been done over a very, very long time. FDR spoke of 4 freedoms: freedom of speech, freedom of worship, freedom from want, and freedom from fear. And 3 years after he said that, Bob Menzies would write about all 4 in his defining work on the forgotten people. And they form the foundation of our beliefs as a Liberal Party. The essence of our party is the defining belief that we all must be free to choose our own path as Australians, from whatever walk of life we come from. And this gathering today affirms 3 freedoms in particular. The freedom of speech, James has a bit to say about that, and well too. Freedom of worship, which I often have a bit to say about, and one we all believe, freedom from fear. When I visited Israel all those years ago, I got to understand what Israel deals with on a day-to-day basis, the practicalities and the courage that is required to live there. And freedom from fear is a human right, in my view, wherever you live, whether it's here, as you say, in the bagel belt, I hadn't heard that expression before, or anywhere else in the world, whether it's in downtown Tel Aviv or Joppa or wherever. And that's why we're here today. And as a Prime Minister, I'm guided each day by a number of decisions that I seek to make every day in answer to these questions. Do the actions and decisions that I'm taking, are they making Australia more prosperous? Are they making Australians safer? And are they bringing Australians together? That last one is so important. We all want to live together in this incredible country. Together, from our different backgrounds, beliefs, perspectives, faiths, ideologies. And we want to be able to happily coexist, and that is the great dream, I believe, of Israel as well, and which they fight hard to secure diplomatically and practically each and every single day. Now, our Safer Communities Fund is about keeping Australians safe, and it's about keeping Australians together, and the $1 million for security means that this centre can continue to be safe and secure a home for Melbourne's Jewish community. More than 23 organisations make use of this campus. It's a busy place, as James was saying, and it reflects the energy and enthusiasm of the community. When I look up here on this list of the supporters of this incredible organisation, when I'm at many other different events or many other different forums or charitable causes, I see the same names. It's not just about supporting the Jewish community, it's the Jewish community's support for a stronger Australia, a safe Australia, a fair Australia, a united Australia, a prosperous Australia. And the names here reflect all of those values, I think, very, very well. And while I know this funding is welcome, I'm not going to shock anyone here to say that I think it's terribly regrettable that it's necessary. As James remarked and others remarked, I grew up in eastern suburbs of Sydney. And I was out there recently and I drove past Temple Emmanuel And I remember driving past Temple Emmanuel when I was a young person, when I was a kid. And I used to ask my dad why there were all these security guards standing outside this building, and he explained to me what it was. And now, I don't have to have security guards when I go to church on a Sunday. I don't need security guards where my kids went to childcare or to school. I don't need security guards when they go to Sunday school on a Sunday morning. And I think it's deeply regrettable and sad that this is necessary for the Jewish community. And that's where our empathy, my empathy, our government's empathy comes from. We wish it was different, but it's not. And so therefore we have to take the actions that are necessary to ensure that the Jewish community can enjoy all the same freedoms, all the same safety, all the same liberties as every single other Australian. And that's what this is about. It's about levelling that playing field up. It's about recognising the world as it is, not how we'd like it to be. We pray that one day it will be, and we pray that it one day will be in Israel. But it is as it is, and we have to deal with what is in the policies that we put in place. It's fair to say that religious freedom remains something very special for this community, and I do understand that. For some people, faith and belief goes to the core of their identity. In fact, if you're a person of faith, it can only go to the core of your identity. That's what it's about. We live by strong convictions. It's what makes, I think, the great richness of life. Living out our convictions, living out our beliefs, and doing it in a free society. You know, if you're not free to believe, you're not free. You're really not. You're kidding yourself if you think so. Freedom to believe, I cannot think of a more fundamental freedom than that. Even more powerful, I think, than freedom of speech and things like this, as much as I share those same views. But how good is Australia when we live in a country where that is true? And it's my responsibility as Prime Minister with my colleagues to ensure that those freedoms are upheld. Every Australian should be free from discrimination. That freedom should include freedom of discrimination, whether it be based on your gender or your sexuality or any of these things. But religion goes along with these things. Why should religion be dropped off that list of things by which Australians can be discriminated against? I certainly don't think so. And while I strongly support ensuring that all Australians are free of discrimination on all of these other issues for which we have legislation and we have protections, I also believe very strongly that your religion, that your belief, that your faith should not be something which should enable you to be passed over, to be looked over, to be discriminated against, to be made to feel unsafe, whether you're a child, whether you're in an aged care facility, whether you're at school, whether you're at work. As we gather at this wonderful centre, I'm reminded of the words of, and you'll have to forgive me for the pronunciation if I get it wrong. I'm just a mortgage belt liberal from Sydney, from the Shire. But Theodore Herzl, is that right? Herzl. That's an L.
It's an L.
I don't pretend to be anyone I'm not, I can assure you. There you go. You learn something every day. But I did read this quote, I promise you. It says, if you will it, it is no dream, and if you do not will it, a dream it is, and a dream it will stay. I thought they were very beautiful words. And I think what we see here is not a dream, that's actually what has been willed by the Jewish community here. Home is where we feel safe, and that dream of an Israel and the Jewish people, it's a dream that the Australian government supports, but we do it with a sense of will. And here, in a spirit of solidarity, you know, our government shares the values of the Australian Jewish community. You are proud of your identity as an Australian Jewish community, as you should be. And it is here that you can celebrate and you work together in a safe and secure place. We may be on different sides of the world with Israel, but Australia and Israel believe in democracy. We believe in the rule of law. We believe in the 4 freedoms that I mentioned before. It's why our relationship between Australia and Israel is so strong, and it's growing stronger all the time, the result of efforts over generations. But on our side of politics, it's always been an article of faith and is unchanging. 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 I can't say that for everyone across the political spectrum. But with the Liberal Party, we believe it, we get it, and we always will. So, after becoming Prime Minister, I had the opportunity to talk to Prime Minister Bibi, and we had a great conversation about these issues. One of the things I respect most of all about Israel is their independence. They love their friends, they support their friends, but they live in a part of the world where they must always put their national sovereignty and security first. And while they welcome the helpful suggestions and contributions, as Bibi does, I'm sure, he's always going to do what's right for his people. And that's what I really respect about the Jewish nation, the Israeli nation. It has a sense of independence that has been hard won and protected on a very difficult basis every single day. And you don't walk away from that, and you don't compromise on that. And for the rest of us who live somewhere else in nations that are very different, not facing the same pressures that Israel does on a daily basis, it can be very convenient for us to have, other views at times, but there are no such indulgences or conveniences that are available in Israel. And that's why we respect that position so strongly. So I want to thank you all for the opportunity. Thank you. So I want to thank you again for the opportunity to come and share these few thoughts with you today, and to be here to show the support of our government to this important community centre. I want to thank everybody for their hard work over many years. This is a day for you to celebrate your achievements, not for governments to come here and take bows. That's not what it's about. We're backing you in. That's what we're doing. You've got a plan for a safer community. You've got a plan for your community, and we're here to back you in. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, it just remains for me and gives me great pleasure to give a vote of thanks on this wonderful occasion. I think it's a proud day for the community, and particularly for Beth Weizmann Centre and for the Zionism Victoria organisation to be able to host the Prime Minister and other important VIPs today for this important event. I think it's an indication of the enthusiasm and interest and support for what's been achieved and what will be achieved, that you've had a turnout like this at relatively short notice from many members of the community, and I think that's an indication of their support. I think the Prime Minister's speech clearly demonstrates his sincerity in terms of his support and understanding of Israel's problems, his support for the community here and for other Jewish communities in Australia, his deep feeling for his values and freedoms that are important to him and to all of us. And I think we really appreciate those comments. I think it's also important that we acknowledge the organising committee for this event, which, as I said, has been relatively short notice, but we're used to that. Headed up by Jean Katzen, Executive Director of Zionism Victoria, ably assisted by Ariella Birnbaum of Zionism Victoria, Juliana Burgess from the Prime Minister's Office, Matthew Thomas of the AFP, Kate Ashmore, who needs no introduction, and Jane Rapke, formerly of this organisation, now working for David Southwick. So thank you all for organising this event. This will hopefully lead to a year and many years of continued success and involvement with this organisation community. As the Prime Minister said, he's already visited the building once, and he's going to have an opportunity to visit again after this and to see how busy the organisation, how busy the building is. It's not just an office block, as Sam said, but it's really a vibrant and active community organisation, community building. It just remains for me to ask the Prime Minister to come up to present a small gift.
before I do that, look, I made a terrible omission. I didn't acknowledge David Southwick. I want to thank David for the great work that he's done. Sorry, David.
So it now gives me great pleasure to give you this gift. This is a book issued by the Lamb Jewish Library next door. It's Voices from the Jewish Community, and it's a series of fascinating, amazing stories of survivors of the brutalities of the war and others who've gone on to achieve great success in this community, and I'm sure you'll enjoy reading. So thank you once again.
Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes the formalities. Feel free, please, to enjoy the coffee and pastries and things that are available. Thank you very much for coming and for your ongoing support.